for Taylor. On the other side of humanity's coin, we have Donald Trump Jr., who was in court again this morning. There he is. You hear the protesters chanting, crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family, a very dumb crime family, the Gambozos, if you will, and...
He has been mocked before, but nothing prepared him for this. Donald Trump walked into court expecting a legal fight, and walked out the punchline of the year. This was not just a roast, it was a public unmasking. In a matter of minutes, the courtroom became a late-night set, and the former president became the headline clown. But this time, the jokes cut deeper than any prosecutor's cross-examination. Jimmy Kimmel did not simply mock him. He tore open the image Trump has spent decades protecting, and when he dragged Trump Jr. into the mix, quoting him straight from the court transcript, the room exploded. It was not just laughter, it was the sound of a brand collapsing in real time. What followed was not a comedy bit. It was a televised humiliation so brutal, Trump could feel the walls of his empire cracking under the weight of one perfectly timed punchline. And the most dangerous part for him, the whole world was watching, and they were laughing.
How weak and pathetic is a guy like that? The Tonight Show, which is dying. They're all dying. Where's Johnny Carson? Bring back Johnny. It made you appreciate, right, Uncle Sam? It made you appreciate the greatness of Johnny Carson. I go on a show, and he goes, "Is that your real hair?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you mind if I mess it up?" So he grabs it, and he starts really going crazy, right? And everybody laughed, and it was a big thing, and it was a big hit. It was all over the place, and he got great ratings and all. And 6 months later, he went out because he was under pressure to apologize because he humanized Donald Trump. Do you remember? And he stood up and he said, "I'd like to apologize. 6 months ago, or whatever it was, I messed up Donald Trump's hair and it humanized him and he became president. And I would like to apologize." How weak and pathetic is a guy like that? And his show died, but the other two shows are dying.
Inside that courtroom, Don Jr. tried to play the slick businessman, but instead sounded like a teenager fumbling through excuses for why his homework was missing. "I am not an accountant," he declared, as if that somehow erased his involvement in a multi-million-dollar fraud. He leaned on the defense that he had hired one of the world's top accounting firm, a claim that might sound reasonable if he were not testifying under oath about his own company's finance. Jimmy Kimmel pounced on that moment like a predator spotting wounded prey. By that logic, he quipped, "If your doctor misdiagnoses you, you should be sued for listening to him." The audience howled, but the sting was real. Kimmel stripped away the pretense, showing that Don Jr.'s excuse was not only flimsy, but insulting to anyone's intelligence. "I pay them millions, and now I am being blamed?" Don Jr. whined, handing Kimmel pure gold for his monologue. What was meant to defend the Trump name instead made it look even weaker. Don Jr.'s tone cracked, his confidence slipped, and the family's carefully crafted image began to look like a cheap set piece collapsing in front of a live studio audience.
Who really gives a crap about law when you're weaponizing your office in a leftist state and where everyone there agrees with you? Most of the prosecutors there don't know what the hell to do about this because even they, like the most radical of the radical left.
Isn't this the most bizarre delivery?
And then came the roast that turned a bad day into a public catastrophe. Kimmel took Don Jr.'s limp courtroom defense and set it ablaze, delivering blow after blow with precision. "He is not just dumb," Jimmy said, pausing for effect. "He is charisma deficient too." The laughter from the crowd was almost cruel. Then Kimmel imitated Don Jr.'s stiff, awkward posture, comparing him to a glitching animatronic from a second-rate amusement park. The courtroom testimony became a comedy sketch, and Don Jr. became the punchline nobody wanted to be. "A businessman with elbows soldered together," Kimmel, a line so absurd it instantly went viral. Don Jr. had walked into court to defend his father's legacy, but instead, he tossed it to the wolves. And the wolves were laughing so hard they could barely breathe. But the damage was deeper than embarrassment. This was symbolic. The Trump heirs, once presented as the embodiment of wealth and power, had been reduced to internet meme. Their grand defense had turned into a sideshow, and all it took was a late-night comedian with a sharp tongue and perfect timing.
I asked, well, most importantly, like, how's the hair? And he goes, "The hair is fine, Don, the hair is fine. There's a lot of blood in it, but it's fine."
Oh, I'm sorry. We're more than 2 hours into the show and Donald Trump hasn't tweeted at us once. And I'm starting to get worried about him. Hold on a second. Can you put it up on my phone up on the screen? Hold on. We go. Sorry, I'm not that good with this stuff.
Then the spotlight swung back to Donald Trump himself, and Kimmel wasted no time turning the knife. He moved from courtroom jabs to a full-scale cultural takedown, unveiling a parody so absurd it was genius. To the tune of the Village People's Macho Man, Kimmel debuted Taco Man, a disco anthem that reimagined Trump as a bumbling fast food mascot. Complete with over-the-top choreography, fake mariachi flourishes, the performance lit social media on fire. TikTokers remixed it, Twitter exploded with GIFs, and AI artists started generating images of Trump in a sombrero, draped in taco shells, wielding burritos like weapons. Beneath the humor, the message was lethal. Trump had gone from symbol of strength to walking punchline, defined not by policy, but by parody. The worst part? It stuck. Taco Trump became more than a nickname, it became a Wall Street joke, shorthand for Trump always chickens out. And when reporters brought it up, Trump's thin-skinned fury only fueled the fire.
There he is. You hear the protesters chanting, crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family, a very dumb crime family, the Gambozos, if you will, and Don Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand, he's testifying in this $250 million fraud trial, and he has to compliment, he said his father is an artist.
Not supposed to rely on a big five accounting firm, like one of the biggest accounting firms in the world. I can pay them millions of dollars. I rely on them to do accounting, but I'm supposed to know more than them. By this logic, insurance companies are going to start suing patients for listening to their doctors. Right? Do you understand? Like, am I supposed to know more? Oh, Don Jr. doesn't know anything about it. I'm not an accountant. I'm a business guy.
I'm a business guy who had his elbows soldered together, and now...
This was not harmless fun anymore. It had turned into a cultural storm. Taco Trump trended globally as AI-generated absurdities flooded the internet. Trump as a chicken, Trump wrapped in lettuce, Trump riding a burrito into battle. Each image chipped away at the persona he had built. The fearless dealmaker was now the cowardly mascot of his own humiliation. Market analysts even joked about the nickname in finance meetings, saying it perfectly captured Trump's habit of posturing big and backing down. Kimmel quipped that taco was the new YMCA, but now it came with guacamole and a side of public shame. Meanwhile, Trump's press briefings derailed into unhinged rants about disrespectful nicknames and fake images. It was a surreal moment. The former leader of the free world was melting down over a taco joke while the world watched. Satire had not just mocked him, it had cornered him, and instead of brushing it off, Trump's outrage validated every jab.
The prodigal son was being grilled as part of the $250 million case against their business. There he is, Tiny Soprano. I wonder what's going through his head right now.
I should have worn makeup.
Oh, yeah, good one. Here's the thing about Don Jr. What he lacks in intelligence, he also lacks in charisma. So, and as with all cases involving the family Trump,
Then came the reveal that made jaws drop. Reports emerged that, during his presidency, Trump had used White House staff to call Disney executives, demanding they rein in Jimmy Kimmel's monologue. Not about global threats, not about economic crises, about late-night joke. Kimmel delivered the revelation with disbelief. President Karen called my manager. Rolling Stone confirmed at least 2 calls were made, directly from the White House, urging Disney to silence Kimmel. It was a moment that stripped away any lingering illusion of strength, exposing a man so insecure he weaponized the highest office in the land to fight a comedian. This was not just petty, it was an abuse of power. And ironically, it only made the joke bigger. Kimmel's ratings spiked, the story trended for days, and Trump became the star of a scandal no serious leader would ever want on his resume.
Village people to drive it home.
Taco, taco man. Taco man. Taco.
Hey, he wanted to be a macho man. We got Taco Man instead. This could be the new YMCA. They can play it at rallies. You can do TACO. Right?
But the obsession did not end there. Insiders revealed this was not an isolated tantrum. Trump had a pattern. When he could not buy silence, he tried intimidation. Kimmel joked, "Usually he pays $130,000 to keep people quiet. I guess I was supposed to do it for free." The crowd roared, but the subtext was chilling. This was a leader who treated dissent as betrayal and satire as sabotage. Don Jr., ever eager to outdo his father, reportedly tried to involve law enforcement over jokes, not a lawsuit, not a PR counterattack, the police, as if comedy could be criminalized when it hit too close to the truth. But censorship attempts always backfire, and this one was no different. Don Jr.'s overreach turned a one-night roast into a viral cultural reckoning. Suddenly, everyone wanted to see what was so dangerous that the Trump family wanted it erased.
To him yesterday, he blew up at a reporter because she asked him about a new nickname that's been making the rounds on Wall Street. They're calling him Taco, which is an acronym for Trump always chickens out. Taco. And you're not going to believe it. He doesn't like the nickname at all. She asked it, he called it a nasty question, but it seems to be catching on. There's been an outpouring of taco-themed AI on social media featuring our Crunchwrap Supreme Leader in all manner of chicken garb, rooster hair, and this master five-piece family meal, all in celebration of our El Pollo Loco. How does it feel to be on the other end of the nickname game? Not great, does it? The only thing that would make it worse is if somebody changed the lyrics to a song by his beloved Village People to drive it home.
Taco Man.
After his physical, Trump gave his own medical update to reporters on Air Force One.
Did they give you any suggestions or advice of anything you need to change up?
A little bit, but overall, I think I felt I was in very good shape. Good heart, a good soul, very good soul.
Right, very, very good soul. How do they measure that? I assume rectally? Is it? And then Trump bragged about how he aced the rudimentary cognitive test.
I wanted to be a little different than Biden. I took a cognitive test, and I don't know what to tell you other than I got every answer right.
Can you tell us what the cognitive test is? That man, woman, person, camera, TV?
I think it's a pretty well-known test. Whatever it is, I got everyone. I got it all.
Got to pick out any lollipop I wanted. It was. And who talks like this? What did that man's parents do to him?
The fallout was instant and unstoppable. What began as a late-night gag became a cultural milestone. Memes multiplied, hashtags exploded, and the internet's appetite for Taco Trump content seemed endless. Jimmy Kimmel did not even need to escalate. The Trumps did all the work themselves. Don Jr.'s desperate attempt to involve the police made him a national joke. A wealthy heir calling law enforcement over a comedy bit was not just embarrassing, it was pathetic. In trying to erase the joke, they immortalized it. The Trump brand, once built on dominance and defiance, was now synonymous with fragility. The more they fought it, the more powerful the satire became. And in the end, Jimmy Kimmel did not just win the moment, he won the narrative.
Posted, this is real. Nobody likes a bad picture or painting of themselves, but the one in Colorado in the state capitol, put up by the governor, was purposefully distorted to a level that even I perhaps have never seen before. He doesn't like this painting of him that they hung in the state capitol building in Colorado. This is the portrait. I have to be honest. I agree with him on this one. It's not a very good likeness. I mean, look how inaccurate the skin color is. His skin is the color of skin. That doesn't... He kind of looks like the villain from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Francis. But Trump then went on to complain. Apparently, he did some research. He said the artist also did President Obama, and he looks wonderful, but the one of me is truly the worst. The best part, I guess, the part Trump didn't know, is that his own supporters donated $10,000 to commission that painting during his first term as president. But Mona Lisa is laser focused on the big stuff. Over the weekend, he revoked security clearance for Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden. He also locked Hunter out of his laptop for good.
While the Trump family obsessed over comedy, the nation's political reality grew darker. The Supreme Court reignited the gun rights, tossing out 2 major cases, but signaling that the fight over AR-15 style weapons far from over. Justice Clarence Thomas openly warned against waiting to decide such issues, giving gun advocates a green light to push harder. The country was on edge, violence was rising, and Trump's public focus, a nickname, the contrast was damning. A man who once campaigned on America First was now putting his ego above all else. Late-night satire became late-stage democracy. As the nation wrestled with life and death issues, Trump was raging about Taco Trump in interviews. The absurdity was so thick, Kimmel barely needed to write new jokes. Reality was doing it for him.
I just got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less-than-average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed-up but cheap ABC talent, George Slopanopoulos. He would make everybody on stage look bigger, stronger, and more glamorous. Blah, blah, blah. Make America great again. Okay, now, see if you can guess which former president just posted that on Truth. Anyone? No? Well, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still watching. Isn't it past your jail time?
And true to form, Trump's response to being cornered was not retreat, but escalation. Instead of letting the Kimmel incident fade, he dragged it back into headline. On Truth Social, he called Kimmel a washed-up nobody, accused him of breaking the law, and hinted at legal action, all for telling jokes. The former president, once entrusted with nuclear codes, was now threatening to sue a comedian. But beneath the pettiness was calculation. Trump knows outrage fuels his base, and few things trigger them more than an enemy mocking their leader. Fox News hosts joined in. Conservative influencers called for ABC to fire Kimmel, and hashtags like #boycott Kimmel briefly trended. But rather than silencing him, it made Kimmel even bigger. Ratings soared, and the roast became a national talking point. Trump, the self-proclaimed master of branding, had branded himself as the man who could not take a joke.
This happened after it happened. No one thought to tell Trump. So a reporter asked him about it today. He had no idea.
You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
Having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
with the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
It sounds like one of those you tell him, no, you tell him things, but my God, if Joe Biden's top-level military team accidentally texted these plans to a journalist, Laura Ingram's erection would be so rock strong, it would break through the wall like the Kool-Aid man.
What had started as a comedy monologue had turned into a test of power, and Trump was losing. Kimmel, armed only with a desk and a sharp tongue, exposed a truth that resonated far beyond late-night TV. Trump's greatest vulnerability was not the media, the courts, or political rivals. It was laughter. In Trump's world, image is everything, and being publicly ridiculed by someone millions tune into for entertainment was devastating. The tragedy for him was that his outrage proved the jokes were working. Don Jr.'s attempt to be the family's attack dog only made things worse. He was no longer the businessman defending the empire. He was the guy who got roasted on TV and then called the cops. Every counterattack the Trumps launched only reinforced the perception that they were thin-skinned and obsessed with controlling the narrative.
Conversation once again toward one of the gravest dangers our country will ever face, windmills.
The windmills are killing our country, by the way. They don't look alike, and they're not painted alike, different colors. You have, even if they're white, one's a beigey white, one's a darker white, one's a lighter white. Windmills all over the place. tall ones, short ones, windmills, all of them, these horrible, horrible structures, these ugly, horrible things, dead ones, they're all dead, some are hanging over by a thread. They're not allowed to bury the propellers, the props, right? I don't know why, but they say that you can't bury a certain type of fiber, and if it goes in the ground, we're all gonna die.
He should have been a flutist, you know?
And maybe that is why this moment feels different. For years, Trump has weaponized outrage to silence critics and turn scandals into loyalty tests. But this time, the strategy collapsed. Instead of burying Kimmel, he put him on the biggest stage possible. Instead of intimidating late-night comedy, he made it more relevant than ever. And instead of ending the joke, he proved that he fears it more than any investigation or political opponent. Satire is dangerous to men like Trump because it cannot be negotiated, bought, or threatened into silence. Kimmel reminded the world that a perfectly timed punchline can do what political rivals cannot: strip power down to its insecurity. Trump may control rallies, media spins, and partisan talking, but he cannot control the sound of people laughing at.
He says he would carry out a deportation operation to remove more than 11 million people from the country. He says he would use the military to build migrant detention camps. He would let red states monitor women's pregnancies and prosecute those who violate abortion bans. He would, at his personal discretion, withhold funds appropriated by Congress. He would fire any U.S. attorney who wouldn't carry out his order to prosecute. He's weighing pardons for everyone who attacked the Capitol January 6th. He said he might not come to the aid of an ally in Europe or Asia if he felt that country wasn't paying enough. He would gut the civil service. He would close the White House Pandemic Preparedness Office and staff his administration only with those who believe the election was stolen from him. And when they asked about dictatorship, he said, "I think a lot of people like it." And he's on the cover of Time magazine. He should be on the cover of Doing Time magazine.
By now, Taco Trump was no longer just a meme. It was a case study in how humor can dismantle an entire brand. Political analysts noted that the nickname did more damage to Trump's strongman image than months of negative press. Voters who ignored policy scandals found it harder to ignore the image of Trump in a chicken suit or as a bumbling fast food mascot. It was digestible mockery, easy to share, and impossible to unsee. Even in Republican circles, some privately admitted the nickname was sticking too well. The more Trump lashed out, the more it looked like the joke had beaten. And once a joke becomes cultural shorthand, it becomes political poison.
To him yesterday, he blew up at a reporter because she asked him about a new nickname that's been making the rounds on Wall Street. They're calling him Taco, which is an acronym for Trump always chickens out. Taco. And you're not gonna believe it. He doesn't like the nickname at all. She asked it, he called it a nasty question, but it seems to be catching on. There's been an outpouring of taco-themed AI on social media featuring our Crunchwrap Supreme Leader in all manner of chicken garb, rooster hair, and this master five-piece family meal, all in celebration of our El Pollo Loco. How does it feel to be on the other end of the nickname game? Not great, does it? The only thing that would make it worse is if somebody changed the lyrics to a song by his beloved Village People to drive it home.
Taco, taco man.
After his physical, Trump gave his own medical update to reporters on Air Force One.
Did they give you any suggestions or advice of anything you need to change up?
A little bit, but overall, I think I felt I was in very good shape. Good heart, a good soul, very good soul.
Right, very, very good soul. How do they measure that? I assume rectally? Is it? And then Trump bragged about how he aced the rudimentary cognitive test.
I wanted to be a little different than Biden. I took a cognitive test, and I don't know what to tell you other than I got every answer right.
Can you tell us what the cognitive test is? That man, woman, person, camera, TV?
I think it's a pretty well-known test. Whatever it is, I got everyone. I got it.
Got to pick out any lollipop I wanted. It was. And who talks like this? What did that man's parents do to him?
The genius of Kimmel's approach was that he never overplayed his hand. He did not have to keep attacking. He simply let Trump's overreactions keep the story alive. Every rant, every press outburst, Every legal threat added another layer to the punch. The comedian had become the conductor of a symphony of self-inflicted damage, and Trump was playing first violin. Meanwhile, the internet's creativity ensured the humiliation would never fade. Every news cycle brought fresh memes, AI parodies, and TikTok remixes. The late-night roast had evolved into a living, breathing cultural phenomenon, and Trump was its unwilling star.
How weak and pathetic is a guy like that? The Tonight Show, which is dying. They're all dying. Where's Johnny Carson? Bring back Johnny. It made you appreciate, right, Uncle Sam? It made you appreciate the greatness of Johnny Carson. I go on his show, and he goes, "Is that your real hair?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you mind if I mess it up?" So he grabs it, and he starts really going crazy, right? And everybody laughed, and it was a big thing, and it was a big hit. It was all over the place, and he got great ratings and all. And 6 months later, he went out because he was under pressure to apologize because he humanized Donald Trump. Do you remember? And he stood up and he said, "I'd like to apologize. 6 months ago, or whatever it was, I messed up Donald Trump's hair and it humanized him and he became president. And I would like to apologize." How weak and pathetic is a guy like that? And his show died, but the other two shows are dying.
And that is the ultimate irony. Trump built his career on commanding attention, but now that attention is his greatest enemy. What started as one late-night monologue has turned into a relentless echo that follows him everywhere. From rallies to interviews to courtrooms. He cannot outrun it, outspend it, or outshout it. Every time he fights back, the laughter grows louder. And for a man who has built his empire on the illusion of strength, nothing is more dangerous than being seen as the joke. Jimmy Kimmel did not just roast Donald Trump, he rewrote the power dynamic. And as long as that punchline keeps echoing, the former president will be living in its shadow. In politics, you can survive scandals, lawsuits, even impeachment. But once the world starts laughing at you, you never get that power back.